I have found the best running shoes for long distances, for short distances, for flat feet, and for high arches. And these shoes have been tested out over thousands of miles. Are you training for the Dopey Challenge and still struggling to find the right shoes? The shoes that will work for you, prevent injuries like shin splints, and get you back to training? Well, then you're in the right place, because today we're going to discuss the top shoes that we recommend, whether you have flat feet or high arches. It can be so confusing and frustrating and difficult to go to a running store and try to find the best shoes for you. And I will say there are some really great running stores where they can give you some really great advice that are specific to your feet. However, I have also noticed that in today's day and age, there are less educated people working at running stores, so you may not be getting the best recommendation for your feet. Let me give you a story. A couple years ago, we knew that we were going to be training for the Dopey Challenge in a few years. So we decided to go ahead and try going to the running store and figuring out what shoes we should be using for training. Because we had a couple of years before we were going to be running it, we had some time to try some different things out. So I went with my husband, who has incredibly high arches, and I went and I have incredibly flat feet. So he went first because, of course, I'm going to evaluate his gait and his running pattern while he's wearing the shoes. So they brought out different shoes and he tried them, and I ended up picking a pair of shoes for him based on how he looked when he was running. And he found a great pair. Then it was my turn. So they started bringing out shoes for me to try with my extremely flat feet. And they ended up bringing out basically the same shoes. Now, friends, I can tell you, I should not be wearing the same shoes as my husband. High arches, flat feet, different needs. Now, luckily, I'm educated. We've both been running for a long period of time. I'm a physical therapist. I was able to figure this out pretty quickly, that these shoes were not working for me. But what I also did was had my husband actually film me while I was running, because he doesn't know anything about gait pattern, but he would film me, and then I would actually look at myself running in these shoes, because I thought, hey, let's actually give this a shot. Now, what I wish I had done is I wish I had gone ahead and kept that video so I could show you the difference. Unfortunately, I didn't. But I will say it can be difficult to find a good running store that actually has people who are educated about different running shoes. But if you have one near you, I highly recommend it. However, if you don't, then this video is for you. But first, before we get to that, I just have to tell you about my favorite recovery shoes. If you have not tried UFOs yet and you are doing any kind of endurance running or long distance running, I cannot recommend them enough. They are amazing, and I will tell you, I was on the fence. I was like, I don't need no recovery shoes. But knowing that I was going to be training for the Dopey Challenge, I realized I did kind of need to up my game. I'm actually wearing them right now as we film this video, because they are fantastic and amazing and have really helped my feet and legs recover in between those long runs. I have a link below specifically for the shoes that I use, although they have many different styles. It's just the one that I prefer the most. But if you're doing any form of endurance training, I cannot recommend UFOs high enough. All right, where are my flat-feeted friends? We get to go first because I'm the one making the video. For my flat-feeted friends, Mizuno has been my brand for a very long time. I will say that when I ran the marathon 10 years ago, I ran them in Mizunos. Luckily, I have been able to stay with Mizunos for the past 10 years. Even though I did have that trip to the running store where I tried something else for a while, I came back to my Mizunos because every time they continue to work for me. Now, for my short distance, I use the Wave Rider. The reason why is this has a little bit less support, and I actually like to make my foot work a little bit harder on those short distances. Because the thing is, with flat feet, all of your muscles tend to get stretched out, and obviously when you're running, that only increases. So I like to make my foot work a little bit harder on those shorter distances. For longer distances, I'm going to use the Mizuno Wave Inspire because I need that extra support when my feet are tanked and they're just not able to work very hard anymore. Now, do you need a short distance versus a long distance shoe? If you have flat feet, I do highly recommend having two shoes for different distances because I do think that getting your foot and those intrinsic muscles to work harder will help to keep as much support in your feet as is possible. Okay, now it's over to my high arched friends. My husband highly recommends the Brooks Glycerin for short distance runs and the Saucony Glide for long distance runs. Now, you may be thinking, why does he have different short distance and long distance shoes? What I have found is for people with high arches, when you're running multiple times per week, especially when you're in training, it is nice to vary the shoe type as well as varying your shoes. Now, some people will buy two of exactly the same shoe and just alternate them in between runs in order to allow the cushioning to recover and, kind of plump back up. And that's fine if you want to do that. But I recommended him having different shoes because I feel like it's helpful to challenge your foot in a slightly different way. For my high arch friends, it's really important to make sure that your feet are properly supported so that you don't end up with ankle, knee, or hip pain. Now, you may have noticed, I will also say in general, as a brand, I have found that Brooks work really well for high arch people and not as well for flat-footed people. I did wear Brooks at one point and ended up with a lot of foot pain afterwards. It's a company that I love. It's local to me here, and I really wish that I, as a flat-footed person, could wear them. However, they are great shoes for my high arch friends, including my husband. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't mention anything about Hoka's, and many people have very strong opinions about Hoka's, and that includes me. I do not like Hoka's personally. My husband has also tried them. He does not like them either. Who I have found that Hoka's work really well for is my heel strikers. So if you're a runner who has a pretty firm heel strike, then Hoka's may be something that work really well for you. But if you're more of a mid-foot striker, which is what my husband and I both are, we don't find that Hoka's work really well for us, and we feel a little bit off balance actually with them. Since we do a lot of trail running, making sure you maintain your balance is really important. So we've tried Hoka's multiple times when we're at the running store. Usually we will try one pair of Hoka's just to see if we like them now. However, every time we leave the store without a pair of Hoka's. But I will say, if you are a heel striker, I would definitely recommend trying a pair of Hoka's and seeing if they work for you. And there's a link in the comments below to the Hoka's that I recommend. All right, there it is. My recommendation if you have flat feet or if you have high arches. Now, I will say these recommendations are based on thousands of hours of running. My husband and I are in the middle of training for the Dopey Challenge. However, even when we're not, we still run a minimum of 20 plus hours per week. So I can guarantee you that we've put a lot of miles on these shoes. Don't forget about your UFOs and your recovery shoes because those are going to be critically important if you're doing any kind of endurance type activity. If you have flat feet, you want the Mizuno Wave Rider for short distances and the Wave Inspire for long distances. If you have high arches, you want the Brooks Glycerin for short distances and the Saucony Glide for long distances. And if you're a heel striker, definitely look into the Hoka's. All right, it's over to you. What type of feet do you have? Flat feet or high arches, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle? And what shoe have you found to be best for your endurance runs or your long distance training or your long distance runs? We'd love to hear your opinion to help the community make a better choice on running shoes for them.